Greetings, citizens. Hey you beautiful, creepy human being you, and welcome to today's true crime video. I am so happy that you are here. I am so happy that somehow in all of this that we're forced to deal with on the day-to-day, today you and I were able to find each other on this crazy little planet that we call home. My name is Brittany or Bratterstein, whichever you prefer, and today we're going to be discussing Amanda Taylor, the then 24-year-old woman who attempted to go on a murder spree and to this day does not feel bad about it at all. But before we get started, if you have not yet had the pleasure, please make sure to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and ringing that bell. I put out a new video every single week, sometimes 2 a week, and I would love to hang out with you. Yes, you specifically you, but I can only do that if you join the Brat Pack and become one of us. Now, before we get into the details of today's case, I first need to say a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, and that is Aura. It's sponsors like Aura that make it possible for me to put out videos as consistently as I do. And with this, I want to start with a question. And the question is this. Have you ever Googled yourself or somebody you know, somebody you love, and been surprised to see how much of yours or their personal information was available on one of those public listing sites? Because when I tell you, it is far more common for a person's personal information to get out on the internet when you just, things you wouldn't want to be out there. And that is because there are these things out there called data brokers who make money, like a lot of money, by selling your information, my information, our collective information to people we just do not want to have it, like spammers and robocallers. They can even find out where you live. I am not down with that sickness. I value my privacy and I value your privacy, and that's why I want to introduce you to Aura. Now, I have good news for you and I have bad news for you. The good news is this. Did you know data brokers are legally required to take down your information if you ask them to? Sounds great, except they make it super difficult for you to do so. They make it hard for you to figure out which of the pesky data brokers have your information, and that's where Aura comes in. They identify which of those data brokers have your information, and they submit opt-out requests on your behalf. They do all the work so you do not have to. And of course, when I first signed up for Aura, one of the very first things I did is I went to the data broker opt-out section because I was like, how many could really have my information? And it turned out like 30, and Aura had already submitted opt-out requests on my behalf. Thank you, Aura. They also do things like check and see if your information's been leaked on the dark web, and nobody wants their information leaked on the dark web. And they check to see if the passwords you use on important things online, like, I don't know, your banking, are safe and secure. And that's not all. Those are just a couple of things that Aura does to protect you and your loved ones from online threats that you just simply cannot see. Through just the Aura app, which is super easy to set up, by the way, you get things like parental controls, antivirus, VPN, password management, identity theft insurance, and more. And you get it all in one place. You don't need several different apps, and you get it all at one affordable price. Now listen, it sounds great to me, but I'm not your mom, and I can't tell you what to do. But what I can tell you is that I don't want people to exploit and profit off of your personal information, and you don't have to let that happen. You can let Aura do the hard work for you by helping keep you safe online. And of course, I have great news for you today. Aura is offering members of the Brat Pack the opportunity to explore all they have to offer for free for 2 weeks through my link. So if all that sounds as good to you as it does to me, make sure to click the link in my description box, which is aura.com/Bratterstein, to get your 14-day free trial and see if your personal information has been leaked online. And if it has, let Aura help you put a stop to it today. Now, I just want to say a big thank you to Aura for partnering with me on today's videos. Again, it is partners like Aura that make it possible for me to put out videos as consistently as I do. And a big thank you to you guys for always being so supportive of all my sponsors. You rock. Don't ever change. All right, with all this said, let's go ahead and get into this video. Now, this video is on a case that was recommended to me by 2 members of the Brat Pack. This was Shadell and Chorus. Hi, Shadell and Chorus. Again, thank you, Shadell and Chorus. And this is part 2, by the way. I uploaded part 1 last Monday, so it's been exactly a week since the upload, to the minute, might I add. And we went over so much in part 1. I think it's like an hour long at the time that I'm filming this. I don't know how long it is because it's just been like a day or so. So it's about an hour long, and we went through everything, the backstory, the lead up, what led to Amanda Taylor shooting her co-conspirator, her partner in crime in this murder spree, in the face and leaving him for dead on the side of the road. It's very complicated. It's complex in all of the reasonings that Amanda had. Is very important to know. So you should definitely watch that video, because there are a lot of people who, I don't know if it's a lot, there are definitely some people who that have a lot of compassion for Amanda, is what I'll say, that think that she was in a very vulnerable place, and that if things had gone differently and she had gotten the mental health services that she needed, she may not have gone on to do something like this. But there are a lot of people who believe that she would have eventually done something like this because she has an inherent darkness in her that made it so she did this and also made it so she still doesn't feel bad about it. And that is very frightening. So all that is to say that today I'm going to tell you the rest of the story. I read all the things so that you do not have to. And at the end of this video, I want you to answer the question of the day. And I'm going to give it to you now so you can have it kick around in your brain as we go through the details of this case. But of course, I want you to answer once you have something to go on. And the question of the day is this. Do you think if Amanda Taylor had gotten the proper mental health care that she needed, that this could have been avoided? Do you think she would rather have gone on to commit this murder spree? Or do you think she would have had a totally normal life? She would have grieved, she would have moved on, and things would have just been normal for her. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below after we go through the details of this case. And now with all that said, come gather around and let me tell you the story of the murder of Charles Taylor at the hands of his own daughter-in-law, Amanda Taylor. Now, to start off, I am going to give a quick recap of last week's video for two reasons. One, in case you didn't watch it yet, which, how dare you? You should. I went very deep with this case. And two, in case you just need a little refresher, but it is going to be very quick and brief, and you're not going to get the context. So again, you should watch part one, but here it goes. So in April of 2015, a 24-year-old woman named Amanda Taylor decided that after losing her husband of nearly a decade to suicide, she wanted to go on a murder spree. She was grieving. She was filled with sadness and anger. She had been recently released early from a mental health care facility, and she wanted to take out her rage on somebody. And she decided that she wanted to start this killing spree with going and murdering the person that she believed was responsible for her husband taking his own life. And this was his own father, Charles Taylor. And she believed he was responsible for her husband Rex's death, his suicide, because he, Charles, had, in her words, supplied Rex with opioids from the time he was a teenager to preteen, and that taking these drugs led to Rex ending up taking his own life. Amanda convinced her friend Sean, which I say friend, but it wasn't really her friend. He believed they were friends. He was actually in love with her, completely in love with her, devoted to her, and she hated him and talked mad shit about him. But she convinced him to be the Mickey to her Mallory, a la Natural Born Killers, and go and commit this murder spree with her and get away with it together. And then they could, live happily ever after together. The two did kill Charles Taylor in a vicious way, something that Amanda was incredibly proud of and showed no remorse over doing. But the murder affected Sean in a way that he didn't expect and in a way that she didn't like. And from there, he refused to help Amanda kill anymore. This pissed her off. He was ruining all of her plans. She had this specific idea of how things were going to go, and he was ruining it. He was pissing her off. He was trying to take his own life, actually, which is something I went into in the first video. And because of this, because of the way that he had failed her, she decided to pull over on the side of the road, shoot him in the face, and leave him there for dead. But miraculously, he survived. All right, now that I've gotten us all caught up, and by all caught up, I mean I literally gave you the most bare bones explanation for an hour-long video where I had all of the context, but we're going to move on from there. In this video, we're going to start with talking about Amanda and when she pulled over on the side of the road, when she shot at that jogger, which, what happened to the jogger, I don't know, and when she shot Sean in the face and took off. Now, for clarity, when she was arrested, she was interviewed, and she was asked about this, about all of this, about killing Charlie, about shooting at that jogger, about shooting Sean. She said she meant to kill all three of them. She was very adamant about that. There was no questioning about whether this was a mistake or she was just trying to hurt or scare people. She was trying to kill all three of these people, one of which was somebody that she did not even know, just a random jogger running down the road, getting in their fitness when she decides to shoot at them. A homicide detective working the case later said that Amanda had no value for human life and did not care who suffered or what the consequences were. He added that she cared only about her own selfish desire to take someone else's life, which I agree. And I think what really sells it for me is her story about the jogger and also about the two girls from last video where she was going to try to have Sean kill them so that they could take their stuff. If it was just Charlie because she was mad about, him and the drugs and her husband, I get it. Even Sean, I don't get any of it, but you know what I mean? I can be like, okay, I see where she was coming from, even if I disagree. Sean, maybe, but the random people, it's like, man, you clearly just wanted to hurt people, and that is evil. She said about Sean, she was just pissed at him, man. Her only reason for wanting to kill him is she was pissed at him. She was pissed at him for taking the pills because, drugs were an issue for her. supposedly. She was pissed at him for writing the suicide note. She was pissed at him that he was going to end his own life because he was supposed to be there and be her ride or die. Like, he was all she had at this point, and he was all high and not helping her and not talking to her, and he's all she had. She couldn't call her best friend Mariah because she was worried that her phone would be tapped, you know? So she was like, he's ruining everything for me. And she said specifically of this quote, he ruined my plans. He ruined so much for me. Plain and simple. So she shot him in the face. Now, in case you're curious about her mindset when it came to this, she was later asked if she felt like what she was doing was wrong, if it was morally wrong. And she was like, you know, I mean, I guess I know you shouldn't be going around and just killing people. Like, that's not something a person should do. But at the same time, like, I was doing it because it made me feel better. It made me not feel so bad. So even though I know, like, technically it's wrong, I don't feel bad. Like, I feel bad it hurt my family. That I feel bad about. But I don't think what I did was wrong. This is her position. Now back to her shooting Sean. She said that when she shot Sean, he fell to the ground and then he fell on his side and he started making some weird, like, gurgling sounds. And she said when she heard that, she knew that he was dying because those are the same sounds that Charlie made after she murdered him. Which, I mean, she was wrong, clearly, but she thought that she had killed him. So she took out her phone and she took a picture of his face where she shot him. Because remember, this woman just loves taking pictures. So she takes a picture of his face and she leaves. It's just crazy to think of doing that to somebody you would spend all this time with, all this time doing these horrible things with. You would think it would be bonding in some way, but it wasn't for her. She said she was over him, annoyed by him. She said that for weeks before the actual murder, he was like talking about his history in the Marines, doing tours in Afghanistan, and how he loved killing and wanted to go on a killing spree with her, and how he wanted it to be like real life natural born killers and they could be that couple. And it's so funny because she in her interview said that she'd seen the movie, but she wasn't that into it. But we know that that's not true because we know that she and Rex were super into that shitty movie. But she said she didn't really think she'd ever do this, but that she did, and she was excited once they did, and that she was really shocked to find that Sean, who talked this big game once the time came and things actually happened, he wasn't as down as he had, presented himself to be. Now, the reason that he wasn't as down as he had, as she had thought he would be is because it turns out that he had lied about a lot of things to impress her. He was not in the Marines. He said he was in the Marines. He had not been in the Marines. He did not see the horrors of war. According to his family, he was infatuated with the military and he wanted to be in it, but he didn't even graduate high school, so he wasn't able to get in. A few of his friends did send him some stuff, like friends who did get in the military, but he never did get in, which his family thinks is like a real shame because maybe if he did, maybe if that had been the path he had gone down, he wouldn't have gotten into as much trouble because instead he had gone to jail before for several counts of felony and burglary, but not the Marines, right? So once he actually saw somebody die for the first time, because he thought he acted like this is something he had done, it hit him real different. It was just too much for him. And once Amanda was arrested, she was told this. She was told that he had lied about everything. And she was just like, because she totally believed him. She believed everything he said. And she said that he had even brought some things to her kids as like little gifts that he told her he had gotten in Afghanistan. And she sat there with the officers and was like, damn, like he really lied to us a lot, didn't he? And he did. And he did this because he thought being a murderer would impress Amanda, right? So he lied about being in the military and being at battle and seeing people die and being in war because it would impress her. And it did. It impressed her and it got her to want to do this with him when he loved her. And now when she was in the interview room and she's learning about this, she thought it was a little bit funny. But anyways, back to after she shot Sean. So she shoots Sean, she leaves, and she calls her mother Marlena again. And she tells her mother that Sean had killed himself, that he couldn't handle what they had done, that it got to be too much for him. So he took his own life and she was on her own. But she wouldn't be for long. That night, they were able to track Amanda down due to her cell phone records because the pinks had been logged or whatever. You know how it goes. And from there, members of the North Carolina State Highway Patrol found Sean's Jeep heading east on I-40 near Asheville, the exact place that Sean believed they were going. So eventually, she ended up there at least. So Amanda's driving because Sean's left on the side of the road and they start to try to pull her over. And of course, she takes off, she runs. There is a chase because remember, she's not going down alive. And they knew in this chase, they knew they needed to be careful. They knew she was armed. They knew she was dangerous. They knew they needed to take precaution when trying to bring this woman in. So officers chased her for a few miles, and some officers were able to get like ahead of her, or officers came from the other direction. So basically they put down those, what are they called? Stop sticks. They put down the stop sticks, which are essentially the spikes. So she drives, she hits those, the tires, they don't exist anymore. And from that, her vehicle stopped. And at about 8 p.m. that night, despite the fact that she said she was going to riot, she was going to shoot her way out of that situation, she was taken in with little fanfare. There was like nothing to it. They were like, "You're arrested." And she was like, "You got me." And she just went into custody. That was actually a direct reenactment of that scene. So once in custody, a Montgomery County Sheriff's officer and an FBI special agent sat down with Amanda to question her. And she was Mirandized and all that. It was done real professional. And she agreed to talk to them without a lawyer and gave them her whole story. She told police that the day she and Sean had gone to his parents' house, they had stolen a total of 3 guns, 2 handguns, and 1 long gun in order to use them to put her plan into action. They then drove to Ellett, Virginia, which is just a couple of miles away from where her mother lived, in Christiansburg. And on that Saturday, which would have been April 4th? Yeah, April 4th, they headed to the home of Rex's father, Charles Taylor. The entire drive, they just sat there quietly, her looking out the window, just listening to music. And the song they were listening to specifically was Sweet Jane by the Cowboy Junkies. And she recounted that everything outside the window looked much more beautiful than things typically looked. It's like she was finally seeing things in Technicolor. They met with Charlie that morning, and that meeting was a normal meeting. Charlie even gave Amanda money to use to get her kids things for their Easter baskets. Because remember, after this, she goes to Charlie's. She gets money from him for her kids for Easter. She meets up with her mother, and her mother and Sean go shopping and get the things for the Easter baskets. And later, Amanda and Sean would return to Charlie's house, but this time they would murder him. Now, Amanda was asked why, like, how did this start? What made you just decide to then attack Charlie? And she said that she was just so angry sitting there and listening to him talk that naturally, as we often see in these cases, she blacked out. Because these blackouts really do be blacking out when they're convenient, don't they? But that's what she said happened. She said that whenever she gets angry or nervous, she acts on impulse and that she just can't help herself. She even said that while in the hospital the week before, she told the doctors this, but that she was still let out. And here we find ourselves. Amanda said that despite blacking out, she knew that she had killed Rex at exactly 3:27 p.m. And this was notable because remember, 3:27 was hers and Rex's birthday. It was a day that was very important to them. But she did say that she didn't go over there with the plan to kill him at this exact time, that everything was just incredibly serendipitous. Everything was coming up Millhouse for Amanda. She says she was just there with Charlie, listening to him talk, and that she looked at the clock and it said 3:27. So she felt that Rex was there with her, guiding her in this moment. She said right before this, Charlie was just sitting there and he was sobbing and he was crying. And he said to her, like, "I just wish I was with Rex." And that her rage took her over. And she was like, "Oh, you wish you were with Rex, do ya?" And she pulled out her knife and just started stabbing this man. She was asked if she remembered where she had stabbed him. And she said that she had tried to stab him very hard in the chest and that he probably had defensive wounds on his arms from when he put them up to try to defend himself. She also said that she probably stabbed him in the face as many times as she stabbed him in the chest, and said that Sean had taken a crowbar and hit him like in the head and in his arm. The autopsy showed that this 59-year-old man had been stabbed 31 times by that giant knife, and that he was hit 5 to 6 times with the tire iron, and at least 11 of those stab wounds from that knife, and it was like a big old bayonet style knife, would have been fatal to him. She said that Charlie never even got off the couch because this man was attacked while just sitting on his couch. She said he barely even fought back. All he did was, try to put his arms up, but there was nothing he could do. And she said after he died, he sort of like slumped over and his arm like fell and his class ring fell off. And that's why when police searched the scene, they found his class ring on the ground, which I wonder if that's true, or if they were trying to rob him personally, because we do know that they took some money from him. but the ring was left. So I don't know if they pulled it off and dropped it in the heat of the moment, but it was found on the ground next to him. But after he was dead, after they believed that he had died, which he had, he was long gone. I mean, 11 of those would have been fatal. There were 31 and he was beaten. They then went through his wallet because, as I said, they had to rob him. It took either $200 or $220 from him and left. Amanda said that there was blood everywhere because of the length of the blade, and like when she would pull it out, there was blood flying everywhere. But despite that, she didn't have a lot of blood on her, which I found surprising because I did see a couple crime scene photos and I also heard the way it was described. And it was said to have been incredibly bloody, that there was blood all over him, all over the couch, all over the walls. It was a very, very messy crime scene. But the point is, they left. She cleaned up in the car the little blood that was on her, and they went on their way. And we know what happened next. She was pissed off at Sean. She tried to kill him. She went on the run, and she was arrested. So now for the Shyamalan twist, which isn't really a Shyamalan twist because I already told you that Sean didn't die. So he had been found, shot in the face, but miraculously, he lived. What happened is when she shot him, the bullet went through his jaw, and she thought he was dead because he had just passed out from the amount of pain he was in. He was found later, I believe that same day, by a passing motorist. And they were like, oh shit, I cannot imagine finding somebody in that condition. But they find him. They take him to the hospital. They figure out who he is. So imagine being that motorist who found this person shot and bleeding on the side of the road, then finding out that this is a wanted man who was on the run for killing somebody. They get him there. They even have to put him into a medically induced coma. But he comes out of it. He comes out of all of this, and then he gives police his version of events of what happened. And they were pretty similar to Amanda's. So on Tuesday, May 12th, 2015, Sean gave his official statement to police, and we were able to hear like what this looked like from his point of view. He was asked about his relationship with Amanda, and he said that he cared about her a lot, that he loved her, and that he also felt bad for her. He said that he felt like he and Amanda sort of loved each other, that he was the guy she had been waiting for ever since her husband had died, and that he actually believed that Amanda may be pregnant. And so he felt like it was his job to protect her because he said the two were physically intimate, and he believed that this baby she was carrying was his. But spoiler alert, there was no baby. But he said he got very obsessed with her. He wanted to be with her all the time, and that she wanted to be with him all the time too. And this was surprising to him. This is something that he always wanted. He wanted somebody who wanted him, and now she finally did. And it was a person who wanted him. The person he wanted him, and it was perfect. He said that she made him feel important. Like, again, he was the person she had been waiting for. The cop looked at him and was like, okay, so you were infatuated with her then, it sounds like. And he was like, yeah, he knew that he was. And other people knew that he was too. And it's sad because they knew that it was very one-sided. They knew that Amanda wasn't that serious about him. There was even one friend, which they didn't say the name of the friend, but I wonder if it was Mariah. It would make the most sense that it would be Mariah, would text Sean's mom and say that Amanda would joke about how she could play Sean. He then tells police about Charlie's murder. He says the two got to Charlie's house at about 3 p.m. and he admitted to police that he went in there armed. He had the tire iron down the back of his pants. He said that they went in, he was sitting on the couch next to Charlie, and they talked for like 20, 30 minutes, and that Charlie started to get emotional. And that he was, uncomfortable. So when Charlie got emotional, he got up, he decided he was going to go smoke. And Amanda sat down next to Charlie. And he said that at this moment, when Amanda sat down next to Charlie, that's when something changed, that something changed in her, and she just attacked him. He admitted that while Amanda stabbed this man, he started trying to defend himself. He started reaching up and like grabbed Amanda's hair. And at that moment, because this was his woman, Amanda was his girl, he felt the need to protect her. So he blacked out crazy and just started swinging on this man because, again, he felt like he needed to make sure Amanda was okay. So he hit him, he said twice, he said in the head and the forearm. He said that after this was done, after Charlie had stopped moving, Amanda was not done. She took that knife and stabbed him a couple more times hard in the chest. He said that after committing this murder, Amanda took out her phone and she started taking pictures of Charles and also took a selfie of her with the knife with Charles's body in the background of the photo. And this selfie is why she ended up being called the selfie killer, because this selfie came into play when it came to proving the case and also catching her, sorta. So Amanda posted this photo on Tumblr and then tried to post it to like a true crime blog that was ran by somebody she knew. So this girl who ran the blog, her name was Natasha. She knew Amanda. I don't know if they knew each other in person or if it was just like an online thing, but they did have each other's phone numbers, it seems. So she posts it. Natasha sees it. She sees the photo. She sees the absolute carnage behind Amanda in the photo. She sees the knife. She sees Amanda's creepy little smirky ass smile. And she sees the post about all the death and destruction that Amanda planned to do to herself, what she had done, her justifications. And Natasha said that she felt sick to her stomach. At this point, Natasha was like, so instead of leaving this post online for everybody to see, what I'm going to do instead is call the cops on you, you crazy bitch. Like, what? So Natasha ended up trying to reach out to Amanda to talk to her and even got her on the phone a couple of times. And each time she talked to her, she tried to tell her, she tried to just convince her to have some reason and to not hurt any other people. Each time her and Amanda would talk, it would be on burner phones. And every single time that her and Amanda got off the phone, as soon as they did, she picked up her phone, she called the police, and she told them everything Amanda said. It must have been so wild for her to be talking to Amanda while she was on the run like this. Amanda even called Natasha while she was getting arrested in Tennessee. I guess she was driving along. The officer turns on her light, or their light. The cop light. Light turns on. Amanda calls Natasha as soon as the lights go on and tells her, she tells Natasha that she's being pulled over, that she needs some help. She needs some advice. Amanda told her, I don't want to go to jail. I want to go down swinging. But Amanda told her, listen, you need to be calm. If you do that, you're never going to get to go home again. And somehow was able to talk her down. And then Amanda was taken into custody without incident. Which, that's wild. I can't imagine being this girl, Natasha, and knowing that part of what you did might have saved some more lives. Because if she had gotten out shooting, she may have killed some cops, and the cops may have killed her. So that's going to be wild. And about this arrest, by the way, this is an arrest that Amanda complained a little bit about. She said that this arrest wasn't as polite as she would have preferred. She said when she brought the car to a stop, before she had even put it in park, the cops were there ripping her out, and she found that to be very rude. But it's girly pop, what did you think was going to happen? You said you were going to get out shooting people. You said there was going to be a firefight. Did you expect them to just be super chill and cool with you? That's not how it works. Anyways, back to Sean. He tells police that he had promised Amanda that if she had killed anybody, he would go on the run with her. He knew her plan, and he said he'd go on the run with her. And he did even help her kill Charlie. But he said after that, he didn't want to kill any more people. He said he didn't want to hurt anybody else, right? He said that after they killed Charles, Amanda wanted to go upstairs and kill his ailing father, but that Sean, had convinced her not to. He told police that Charlie was supposed to just be the first of many, that Amanda wanted to go on a real-life murder spree. She wanted to just drive down the road and shoot people at random, or to go to truck stops and murder people at truck stops, when they weren't looking to go over and stab or shoot them. But Sean couldn't do it. He said that the guilt was just too much for him, so he was planning to take his own life. He did write that letter, and he did take a bunch of pills, and he passed out. And the next thing he remembered, he was waking up, and Amanda was upset. She told him that he had thrown up on himself, and that the next thing he knew, there was just the most intense blinding pain he had ever felt in his life. He said he didn't hear anything. He didn't know he'd been shot. It was just intense, intense pain. And I saw a report from him, his statement, where he said he was shot 3 times, but I only saw it reported that he was shot once. So that was a bit confusing to me. But the point is, he was shot in the jaw. From there, he just laid on the ground screaming in pain in his mind as she just drove off. And it was super weird because he described this very specifically. He said that after he was shot, he could still see, but it's all the color in his eyesight disappeared. So he could see, but it was in black and white, I guess. And he said that he saw her sort of wave goodbye to him before just driving off. So anyways, back to Amanda. She's asked by police if she has ever hurt or killed anybody before. And because she's being questioned, we're back to that point in the story. And she sort of hesitates, but then she says no. And they're like, okay, then have you ever been there when somebody else hurt or killed somebody? And at that point, she really hesitates and then says no. Now, this serious hesitation was not missed. The FBI agent was like, seems like it took you a long time to answer that question. Are you sure there's not something that you would like to share with us? And she was like, no, I won't talk about it. What's it, girl? What is it? She told the officer that it was something that Rex did and that she won't talk about it, even though she knows that it might help her case to do so. And they ask her, are you worried that it's going to taint Rex's memory? What's the deal? And she's like, no, it's just I gave him my word and I'm going to stick to it. She said that Rex had a lot of secrets, that he knew where a lot of bodies were hidden, even if he wasn't the one who killed them. Because remember, he talked to a lot of really bad people, but he always kept his word. He always kept the secrets, and she intended to do the same. The FBI agent then tells her, like, his specialty, this FBI specialty, is in computer forensics. And at this point, she gets nervous and is sort of like, oh, so you know. And he said yes, that he had even worked a case related to Rex a while back and knows all about him talking to all these serial killers and knew about him, Rex, sending photos of his and Amanda's kids to these serial killers. And she was asked if she knew about this. And she was like, yeah. The officer then continues to push her. And honestly, it doesn't take that much pushing for her to give up some information on something that she says Rex did. Now, keep in mind, this is something that she's saying that Rex told her he did, but it hasn't been proven that this even happened. The only thing she really gives to police is the story about Rex brutally beating a woman prior to him taking his own life. She says that this was some junk girl from Blackburn, and that Rex had been driving down the road, had seen her, had picked her up, had beaten her extensively, and then just left her there. And Amanda says she doesn't know what happened to her after, and she doesn't know if this girl lived. And doesn't know who she is. Just some random girl beaten, left on the side of the road, knows nothing else about it. But again, Amanda doesn't know who this is, and nobody has come forward to say that this happened to them. All we know is that this was like a blonde girl who was 19 or 20 years old. Now, I will say, if this did happen, that's incredibly fucked up, obviously, and there's no justification for it, but we just don't know if it actually happened. It's something that Amanda's saying Rex did, and I just don't trust Amanda. But you'll have to let me know what you think. Do you think that this actually happened? You'll let me know in the comments, I guess. Anyways, after giving her entire confession, Amanda looks to the officers and is like, okay, what happens now? And they tell her she's going to be arrested. She was facing the first-degree murder charges, right? Obviously, but she was also facing federal charges related to the attempted murder of Sean because the crime was committed while on the run and because of where it was committed on Blue Ridge Parkway. The additional charges that she was given were for attempted murder, assault with intent to commit murder, assault with a dangerous weapon, assault resulting in serious bodily injury, and use of a firearm in relation to a crime of violence. She told them that she wanted to go to prison and she wanted to get the death penalty specifically. And she said she would do everything in her power to make sure that that was her fate. And she told them that maybe if she helped them, like with their prosecution of her, that maybe they could help her get put to death. She was then asked if she would be alone in a cell, adding that she would hurt more people if she was put around them. She said that she would continue doing what she had to do until police finally took care of her. Now, I don't know if she was put into solitary or if she was put around other people. I didn't hear about anything happening specifically to her or from her to other people while in jail. But something that did happen while she was in jail, while she was awaiting trial, is she gave an interview. Now, this was something that both the Commonwealth's attorney in Montgomery County and her lawyer didn't want her to do, and even prohibited a camera being used in the interview. But Amanda chose to call this reporter and gave the interview anyway. Now, during this interview, Amanda seemed happy, she seemed content, she seemed coherent. They talked several times, and every time they talked, Amanda was reportedly just a delight. Amanda told this reporter, I think his last name was Hurst, that Charlie had to die. She said she had been thinking in her mind about killing somebody for a while, but that she never thought she would actually do it until a week, I think, before the murder actually took place. And that's when she quickly started to plan it. She said that she really liked doing what she did. It brought her great joy, and she liked doing it with a knife specifically. And she said of this choice of using a knife, quote, I just wanted him to know it was me, and I wanted to watch him die. So, I stabbed him to death. She said when she first stabbed Charlie, she couldn't even tell if it was real, if it was actually happening, because it was so different than she expected. It wasn't like the movies. She thought she would stab him, there would be a lot of blood, and he would die instantly, but it didn't happen like that. But she said despite it not going exactly how she planned, it was great. And even though it sounds bad, it made her feel better to have done it. She said specifically of this, quote, I was pumped up and excited, and I looked at Sean and I wanted to jump up and hug him, but he didn't have the same reaction to it. And we know how she felt about that. She told this reporter that she was just like stoked. It's just weird. She was just stoked. She's told the reporter that like when she saw her and Sean's mugshots being put around on the news and things like that, she got so proud and so excited, and she was happy people were talking about what she did. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, Amanda's attorney wrote a letter to this news publication begging them not to publicize this interview. They said that Amanda, still had a psych evaluation pending, but Amanda herself said that she had been met with a few times, that they hadn't diagnosed her with anything, and repeatedly said that she had never been diagnosed with any illness and was only ever prescribed medication during her stay at St. Albany's, like the latest thing. So the reporter was like, she says it's cool, and published it anyway. So that definitely could not have helped Amanda's case, but a lot of things didn't help Amanda's case, namely Amanda. Like, her attorney even tried to put in like a change of venue because they thought the publicity around the case was going to be too much for her to get a fair trial. But the judge disagreed, saying that all the publicity coming to this case was due to Amanda herself. So, you know how Amanda told the police, like the interviewers, the FBI agent, the sheriff or whatever, that she wanted the death penalty. She wanted to be done with this. She just wanted to die, and she would do everything in her power to get that way, and she would hurt more people, etc., etc. Well, here's the thing. When the time actually came, that didn't happen, and instead she pled not guilty. The trial began in 2015, November of 2015, to be exact. And the prosecution had a strong case, okay? They had Amanda's confession. They had Sean's statements about what happened as well, which corroborated her confession. They had the picture of Amanda with the body. They had conversations she had with her friends and all the things that she posted on social media while on the run. Now, the defense never tried to claim that Amanda didn't kill Charles because, I mean, they couldn't, right? It was very clear that she did, but instead said that Amanda felt justified in doing so because love is a, quote, powerful, or not quote, love is basically a really powerful motivator, was their point. The quote specifically was powerful and overwhelming motivator. So the point is, they never tried to say she didn't do it. They just tried to say that she had some very, very strong justifications for doing it, which is like, okay, maybe when it came to Charlie, but also her strong justification for shooting Sean in the face is that he pissed her off and wouldn't shut the fuck up. So it's like, is that like a strong motivator, or is that just like a petty bitch thing? But anyways, that was kind of it. The prosecution went on for hours presenting their case, but the defense was done pretty quickly. They didn't show any evidence, and they didn't call up any witnesses. Now, it's not like the defense attorney had much to work with, though. The case was bad. I will say that. And Amanda didn't do much to help herself look good at trial either. She literally laughed. She smiled and laughed while the prosecution presented the 31 stab wounds that she had inflicted on Charlie, which is like a no-no when you're trying to plead not guilty, like I would think. She also yelled out in the courtroom, but the jury wasn't in the room at the time. And she told the judge that the murder was personal and that Charlie deserved to not exist anymore. Now, when the prosecution rested their case, they asked the jury to give Amanda the harshest punishment, saying, quote, "You are here because the defendant wants the attention in this case. She wants the world to know she's a killer. Amanda Taylor decided her own fate. She's the one that brought us here today because of her actions." Which, yes, I truly, in my gut, believe that Amanda wanted that attention, that she wanted people to see that she was a hard-ass killer. I know she was so pissed off that cameras weren't allowed in her trial because cameras weren't allowed to be there, because I just know she would have been the type to ham it up for the camera, just like dumbass dumpster fire with nice cheekbones Richard Ramirez. I could see her doing that because I think she wanted people that were like her, that were obsessed with serial killers, to remember her as a notable and memorable killer. And it's not just me. Rex's aunt agrees, saying of Amanda, quote, "I think it was about her trying to make herself look good. The girl's got issues. She needs help. She needs help," which I think is true. But anyways, in closing, her attorney just asked that the jury has some compassion for Amanda. The jury of 5 women and 7 men were sent to deliberate, and after just 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes, they returned with their verdict. They had found Amanda Taylor guilty of the first-degree murder of Charles Taylor. After the jury gave their verdict, Amanda's mother, Marlena, gave a statement in which she said, quote, "I tried to love her. I tried to talk to her. I never saw any real issues. She was just always angry. She also added that Rex's death had ruined her daughter, that she never grieved, and that her eyes just went empty. So Amanda was guilty, and even though she could have gotten as little as 20 years in prison, the jury actually recommended her sentence, and they recommended that she get the harshest sentence she could, and the judge agreed. So she was subsequently sentenced to life in prison. After her sentencing, Amanda looked out into the crowd and saw her best friend sitting there and yelled, quote, "I love you, Mariah. I'm so sorry." And this was the only apology she offered at all during her trial. Now, Amanda did not think that her sentencing was fair. She thought that she got too much time, but it's like, girl, you did a lot. Like, on top of everything else you did, you also threatened a reporter, like the reporter who did that interview with her. She threatened him, saying that he was a liar, that she didn't say those things, and saying that he should remember what she did to the last guy who lied to her, which she's referring to Sean. And she also, tried to kill Sean just because he wouldn't stop talking and was pissing her off. And another thing that's weird when it comes to her relationship with Sean is she blames him for her position. She blamed Sean for her being caught. She was like, listen, we had plans. We had things we were going to do, and he ruined it. It is his fault. She said she had things she wanted to do after the murder, and she believed she could have done it. She believed she would have gotten away and she wouldn't have gotten caught, but that he had made her shoot him and then leave him on the side of the road, which subsequently got her caught. This is her justification for why it's his fault she's in jail. But at the same time, which is sort of weird, she also wants to talk to Sean. Like, she said in an interview that they are special to each other, that they have a bond that nobody could understand, and a bond that she can't have with anyone else because of the things they did together. So even though she shot him and hates him, she also wants to talk to him and see if he's all right. But as far as I know, she hasn't gotten that chance. As far as I know, the two haven't talked. Sean's actually been the opposite of Amanda and has been private. He said that he doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to get interviews. He just wants to serve his time and hopefully get out one day. Now, speaking of him serving his time, so instead of pleading not guilty and making everybody go through a whole trial and all that, he took a plea deal. In this plea deal, he would plead guilty to first-degree murder. In exchange, he would be given 61 years, but nearly 19 of those were suspended. So basically what that means is he's going to serve 41 years before he is released, and that he will get 10 years probation. So I don't know how you feel. I don't know if you feel like that's enough time, but he does seem to be remorseful, I guess. I believe it was during his sentencing, either before or after, he said that he was so sorry. He apologized, saying he felt so much remorse that it was hard for him to explain and hard for him to deal with. He said he can't even put it into words. He says he struggles with it every day. He said more than anything, he is sorry to Charles Taylor's family and his own family. He said his family has always done their best for him and that this was no way to show them gratitude. And he went on to say that he will try to better himself and do something better and more productive with his life after prison. So that's where we are when it comes to legal, at least with Sean. Amanda, of course, did try to appeal, but her appeal was rejected. And she said if she has to, she'll go as far as taking this to the Supreme Court. But in the meantime, she did give another interview. Now, after being convicted, Amanda did decide to give another interview, and she gave an interview with True Crime Daily, actually, which doesn't surprise me at all, considering the type of person that she is. She's like, okay, more attention, please, in my opinion. But because of this, because we got to have another interview with her, we got to hear more from her, we got to hear more about her point of view, how she feels since being arrested, etc., etc. Her reasoning, if you will. So she again said that she killed Charlie because she was just so mad. She said she was mad that Rex would have taken his own life and that most of her anger just went towards Charlie. She wanted him to feel all the pain that she felt in losing Rex. She said that when she saw Charlie, she wasn't planning to kill him, but that she was just so mad, especially when he brought up Rex's name, because she was like, you have the audacity to speak about him when it is your fault that this happened. And so she attacked him. She said killing Charlie what made her feel the most alive that she had felt since Rex had died. And she said she was very happy. She was very glad that she was able to release all that rage and built up anger she had inside of her by murdering this man. She said that when she stabbed him, she didn't see anything. He just looked at her and said, "What are you doing?" And she just kept stabbing, and he sort of reached up and got her hair and kept yelling, but that she just stabbed and stabbed and stabbed. And then Sean had hit him with that crowbar. She said that she took that photo, that selfie, the infamous selfie of her with Charlie's body because she wanted to commemorate it. She wanted to document it. She wanted to have a photo to show people what she had done because she was so proud and it made her so happy. She said as far as Sean goes, the reason she shot him is because she was mad at him, right? Mad at him for taking drugs and mad at him for lying to her. So she says that she tried to shoot him in the throat. She says she didn't want to kill him. She just wanted to shut him up, right? And get him away from her. But it is like very contradictory because in her first interview, she said she intended to kill him. She intended to kill him. She intended to kill Charlie, and she intended to kill that jogger. She's even said that with some time and perspective that she considered the murder to be like her first roller coaster ride at Carowinds, which I don't know what Carowinds is, but that's what she said. She said she felt like it was a first roller coaster ride because of all of the adrenaline and the nerves and the release that she felt in doing this. She says she just felt freedom and that it felt very different than she imagined and very different than any of us could imagine it would feel like. But she also said that even now, with some time and some distance between her and her crime, with some perspective after being put in jail and convicted, she doesn't regret what she did. Not at all. She doesn't feel bad. She doesn't care. And she said specifically of this, and I quote, "I have absolutely no remorse for what I did to Charlie Taylor at all. I did exactly what I wanted to do." And with that, my friends, is the story of the murder of Charles Taylor. I hope that you found it informative. I hope I gave you all the information you would want when looking into this case. And of course, I just want to thank you for remembering Charlie Taylor with me today. Now, considering everything I told you throughout this video, I want to revisit the question of the day, the question of the last two videos, and that is this. Do you think that if Amanda had gotten the mental health care that she needed, that this murder spree would have happened? Do you think that she could have gone on to live a normal life if this had been nipped in the bud? Or do you think that this is something that was inherent in her, a darkness that would have come out eventually? Please let me know all your thoughts in the comments below because I feel very conflicted. You guys know I have a soft spot for people with mental health issues, people with substance abuse issues, but there has to be a line, right? And hurting other people for me is my personal line. That just has to be where I have my limit because I understand her anger, right? If Charles really did get Rex hooked on drugs, his own son, that's so fucked up and sadly way more common than I think people realize. And I understand her hating him, and I even understand her wanting him dead. But to kill him like she did, like I understand the want, I understand the thoughts, but to do it is different. And to do it as brutally as she did is very different. And it wasn't just him. It was him. It was Sean. It was the jogger. It was those two random girls, people she didn't even know. It was more than just being angry at Charles and grieving Rex. And I think that that's what gets me. And that's what makes me wonder if this would have happened anyway. It just makes it hard for me to believe that if she had gotten hospitalized at that moment, that it would have stopped her from doing something in the future. But let me know what you think. Before you leave, please don't forget to let me know what case you'd like to see me cover in the future. As you know, I have a long list of cases, but whenever you leave me a suggestion, I put it on my list. So if I cover it, I can give you a shout out. I love looking into the cases you guys suggest because they're often cases I haven't heard of or cases that need more coverage. And I know you're filled with great ideas and great taste. Otherwise, you would not be here. If you haven't already, please don't forget to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and ringing the bell. I put out a new video every single week, sometimes 2 a week, and I would love to hang out with you. Yes, you, specifically you, but I can only do that if you join the Brat Pack and become one of us. One of us, one of us, one of us. And if you want to hang out more consistently, all my social media is listed down below, along with a link to my membership and a link to my merch store. I'm going to say right here, I'm sorry if you heard dogs barking or babies crying because I live in an apartment building and I have a baby and my neighbors have dogs and I try to fit in filming, but there is no quiet time in Los Angeles, man. God, it's hard, but I thank you for bearing with me because sound is important to me and I want it to be perfect, but I'm just doing the best I can. But anyways, with all of that said, I just want to thank you for being here when you could literally be anywhere else in the world. That is tight. You are tight. Please stay safe and be a better person than you were yesterday, and I hope to see you in my next video.